Judge Robert Wilson delivers the words that shatter a family. Marcus Williams, you are hereby sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for practicing medicine without a license. The gavel crashes down in Federal Courtroom 6B, Dallas, Texas, at exactly 9:47 a.m. The courtroom fills with satisfied murmurs from white faces, except for the back rows where East Dallas residents sit in stunned silence. Their healer is being destroyed by a system that never valued their lives. Then, cutting through the quiet like a blade, a young voice rises. Your Honor, free my dad and I'll heal you. Every head turns. Keisha Williams, 17 years old, stands with shoulders squared and eyes blazing with impossible determination. Judge Wilson's eyebrows furrow. What? I said I'll heal you. I know you're dying. Cruel laughter explodes. A white woman whispers loudly, These people always think they know magic or something. But Judge Wilson isn't laughing. His hand moves unconsciously to his chest, and fear flickers across his face before anger takes over. Security! Remove this child immediately! The question hangs in the air. How does a teenage black girl from the projects know the most powerful judge in Dallas is dying? 6 months earlier, Marcus Williams wasn't a criminal in the eyes of the law. He was simply invisible. In East Dallas, where ambulances took 40 minutes to respond and emergency rooms demanded insurance cards before checking vital signs, invisibility meant death for too many families. Marcus operated from a converted house on Pine Street where peeling paint couldn't hide the steady stream of people seeking hope. His waiting room told the real story of American healthcare. Elderly diabetics rationing insulin, asthmatic children whose inhalers cost more than their mother's weekly wages, and pregnant women whose skin color determined which hospitals would even admit them. Mr. Williams saved my grandmother when Methodist Hospital told us to make her comfortable, whispers Maria Rodriguez, clutching a 3-year-old who shouldn't exist according to medical records, said her cancer was too advanced, that chemotherapy would be wasted on someone her age from our neighborhood. When Mrs. Rodriguez had first arrived at Methodist's emergency room with chest pains, the white doctor barely looked up from his clipboard. Ma'am, are you sure you have insurance? This might just be indigestion. Maybe try the community clinic. But Marcus Williams took one look at her skin tone and breathing pattern and knew immediately, silent heart attack. The system had rules about who deserved expensive treatments and who didn't. Marcus Williams had different rules. Save everyone, regardless of their ability to pay or the color of their skin. His daughter, Keisha, absorbed everything. At 17, she possessed the kind of intelligence that made teachers uncomfortable, the type that asked questions they couldn't answer and saw patterns they preferred to ignore. In Highland Park High School, where she was one of 3 black students among 800, her biology teacher had announced to the class, "Some cultures still believe in primitive healing methods instead of real science," while staring directly at her. Keisha said nothing that day, but she remembered everything. She also remembered being 8 years old when a white pediatrician refused to treat her strep throat, claiming their clinic didn't accept her type of insurance. Her father had cured her with herbs and honey while she burned with fever. Judge Robert Wilson lived in a different Dallas, one with private physicians and concierge medicine, where illness was an inconvenience rather than a death sentence. For 15 years, he'd built his reputation as the judge who cleaned up Dallas from medical fraudsters. 23 traditional healers had faced his gavel. 20 were black or Latino. At the Preston Country Club, surrounded by men who looked exactly like him, Wilson would explain his mission over 18-year-old scotch. These people prey on their community's ignorance. They keep them trapped in backward thinking instead of joining civilized society. It's our duty to protect them from themselves. But Wilson carried a secret that his exclusive doctors couldn't cure. His heart was failing piece by piece, and the same medical system he championed had quietly written him off. Dr. Richardson at Dallas Presbyterian had delivered the news with clinical detachment. 6 months, maybe 8. We've done everything we can. The irony was lost on him, but not on the teenage girl watching from the courtroom's back row. Prosecutor Sarah Mitchell had built her political ambitions on cases like this one. Protecting society from ghetto medicine, she called it in campaign speeches. Each conviction of a traditional healer was another step toward the Attorney General's office, another sound bite for her law and order platform. The trap had been set months earlier when Marcus healed the son of a wealthy white family, a boy the hospitals had declared terminal with leukemia. When 10-year-old Timothy Morrison returned to his private school healthy and laughing after 6 months of Marcus's herbal treatments, Big Pharma's profit margins felt the threat. Phone calls were made, donations were promised. Justice was purchased. Marcus knew what was coming. He'd watched it happen to healers across the country. Sudden raids, trumped-up charges, families destroyed to protect medical monopolies. But he also knew that every day he remained free, someone else lived who might otherwise die. Keisha watched her father accept his fate with the grace of a man who'd spent his life serving others. But she also watched Judge Wilson during the trial, noting the telltale signs her father had taught her to recognize. The shallow breathing, the unconscious chest rubbing, the way he favored his left side when standing, the slight yellowing around his eyes that indicated liver stress from heart medication. The most powerful man in the courtroom was dying, and the only person who could save him was about to be sent to prison for the crime of healing without permission. The trial unfolds like a theatrical performance designed to put these people in their place. Prosecutor Sarah Mitchell opens with words chosen for maximum impact. Your Honor, Marcus Williams represents a dangerous trend in certain communities where superstition masquerades as medicine. These people exploit their neighbors' desperation instead of encouraging them to seek proper, educated medical care. The way she says "these people" drips with contempt that needs no translation. Dr. Hamilton, medical director at Methodist Hospital, takes the stand with the confidence of a man who's never doubted his superiority. Your Honor, in my 25 years of medical practice, I've seen the damage these folk healers cause. They prey on the ignorance of their own people, keeping them from accessing real health care. It's particularly tragic in the African American community, where education about modern medicine is already limited. Keisha's hands clench into fists as she watches the white faces in the gallery nod in solemn agreement. A man in a business suit whispers to his companion, "Finally, someone's doing something about these charlatans." Dr. Patricia Stone, a psychiatrist from Dallas Presbyterian, delivers her testimony with clinical precision. These individuals often suffer from what we call cultural delusions. They genuinely believe their traditional methods work, but it's confirmation bias combined with primitive thinking patterns. It's not malicious. They simply lack the cognitive framework to understand real science. She gestures toward Marcus with the detachment of someone describing a laboratory specimen. Notice how the defendant shows no remorse. This is typical of individuals trapped in pre-scientific worldviews. They literally cannot comprehend the harm they cause. The whispers from the audience grow louder and bolder. A white woman in expensive jewelry leans toward her companion. "Look at him just sitting there. No remorse for the people he's probably killed." Her friend responds, "That's their culture. They think they're special, that they have some mystical knowledge we don't." A third voice chimes in. "My maid told me about these witch doctors. They charge desperate people for herbs and mumbo-jumbo. It's elder abuse, really." The chorus of condemnation builds. A white man in a cowboy hat shakes his head. "This is what happens when you don't integrate properly. They stay in their own little world, believing nonsense." Marcus sits in dignified silence, his hands folded, accepting the verbal assault with the patience of a man who's endured a lifetime of such treatment. But his daughter cannot. Keisha stands abruptly. "That's not true. My father saved Mrs. Rodriguez when your doctors said she had 2 weeks to live. That was 3 years ago. She's here today." Judge Wilson's gavel crashes down like thunder. "Young lady, you will be silent or be removed. This is not some street corner where you can just speak out." Mitchell rises with practiced indignation. "Your Honor, this is exactly the problem. These children grow up thinking emotions and stories matter more than facts and law." Dr. Hamilton shakes his head sadly. "It's tragic, really. She probably genuinely believes her father is some kind of medicine man. It's how ignorance perpetuates itself in these communities. They teach their children to reject education and embrace superstition. The cruelest blow comes from an unexpected source. A white woman in pearls calls out, Someone should call Child Protective Services. That poor girl has been brainwashed by this witch doctor nonsense. Another voice joins. It's child abuse, making her believe in magic instead of science. The bailiff, a heavy-set white man with cold eyes, approaches Keisha's row. Ma'am, please return to your seat. Outbursts like this are exactly why we have problems with these people in our courts. Mitchell seizes the moment. Your Honor, I request that the defendant's daughter be removed. Her presence is clearly disruptive, and frankly, we cannot allow this courtroom to become some kind of urban circus. The laughter that follows is the cruelest sound Keisha has ever heard. Dr. Hamilton grins as he delivers the killing blow. Your Honor, this is exactly the problem. These people think emotions and fairy tales can replace medical science. This young girl probably thinks she's a healer, too, just like her father. Next, she'll be claiming she can cure cancer with chicken bones and dancing. The courtroom erupts in applause and laughter. Some people actually clap. A white teenager in expensive clothes makes exaggerated mystical gestures, mocking traditional healing rituals while his friends giggle. Even Marcus's court-appointed attorney joins the betrayal. Your Honor, my client, well, he means well. It's a cultural thing. In his community, they still believe in these old ways. He's not educated enough to know he was breaking the law. The attorney, supposedly defending Marcus, continues his racist monologue. We have to understand, these are simple people with simple beliefs. They don't have the sophistication to distinguish between correlation and causation. Mitchell moves for the kill. Exactly, Your Honor, which is why we need the maximum sentence, 15 years, to send a clear message to these communities that this kind of backward behavior will not be tolerated in modern Dallas. She points dramatically at Marcus. This man has convinced his neighbors that centuries of medical progress mean nothing. He's kept them trapped in ignorance when they should be embracing civilization. Judge Wilson leans forward, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Miss Williams, I understand you're upset about your father, but this is America. We have laws, we have standards, we have education. We cannot allow people to practice medicine just because their grandmother taught them some folk remedies. That's not how civilized society works. He pauses, letting his words sink in before delivering the final humiliation. Your father may mean well, but good intentions don't excuse breaking the law. And frankly, the greatest tragedy here is that he's taught you to believe in these primitive methods instead of encouraging you to pursue real education. Wilson's voice rises with righteous conviction. Young lady, if you really want to help people, go to school, learn real science. Don't waste your life following in your father's footsteps into ignorance and superstition. You're young. You can still escape this cycle of backward thinking. The breaking point arrives like lightning. Keisha stands, her voice trembling with contained fury. Your Honor, you want to talk about ignorance? You're dying, and your educated doctors can't save you. But you're too proud and too racist to admit that maybe, just maybe, a black man from East Dallas knows something you don't. The silence that follows is absolute and terrifying. At that moment, everyone realizes that this 17-year-old girl has just declared war on the entire system, and she might actually know how to win. The silence stretches like a taut wire ready to snap. Judge Wilson shifts uncomfortably in his chair, his hand unconsciously moving to his chest as every eye in the courtroom fixes on the teenage girl who just shattered every rule of judicial decorum. How dare you, Wilson begins, but Keisha cuts him off with surgical precision. Your heart rate is irregular. You're having small episodes, what doctors call silent heart attacks. You probably think it's just stress from work, but it's not. The color drains from Wilson's face. Prosecutor Mitchell shoots to her feet. This is ridiculous. She's just making wild guesses. Your Honor, don't let this street psychology manipulate you. Dr. Hamilton's voice cracks with panic. It's a classic con artist technique. They make vague statements that could apply to anyone. But Keisha continues with the calm confidence of someone who knows exactly what she's seeing. The slight tremor in your left hand when you think no one's looking. The way you unconsciously massage your chest during stressful moments. The barely noticeable favor you give your left side when you stand up. Wilson's breathing becomes visibly shallow. A white spectator calls out desperately, "How could she possibly know medical symptoms? She's just a kid from the ghetto." Your Honor, these aren't lucky guesses, Keisha continues, her voice growing stronger. This is what my father taught me to see. The yellowing around your eyes indicates liver stress from heart medication. Your breathing pattern shows your heart isn't pumping efficiently. You've been hiding this condition for months, haven't you? Dr. Hamilton explodes from his seat. Don't listen to her. This is exactly how these people operate. They prey on fear and desperation. A white woman in the gallery shrieks, "She's probably practicing voodoo right now. Someone stop her!" But Judge Wilson can only stare because every single detail is devastatingly accurate. The private consultations with Dr. Richardson, the experimental medications, the grim prognosis he's hidden from everyone, including his wife. Even if what you're saying is true, Wilson stammers, that doesn't change the fact that your father, it changes everything. Keisha's voice rings with absolute conviction. Because the same medical system that wants to destroy my father is the same system that's failing to save you. The courtroom erupts in chaos. Spectators shout over each other. Bailiffs move nervously, and Mitchell pounds her table. "Your Honor, this is a circus. We cannot allow—" But Keisha raises her voice above the din. "Your Honor, you've spent your career sending black healers to prison because you think we're all frauds. But right now, in this moment, the only person in this entire room who can actually help you is standing right here." Wilson struggles with words that seem to stick in his throat. "But you're just... your people's methods." He stops, suddenly aware of what he almost said. Keisha seizes the moment like a blade. "My people? You mean black people, Your Honor? Is that what you were going to say?" The question hangs in the air like smoke from a gun. Several white spectators look away uncomfortably. "Let me ask you something," Keisha continues, her young voice carrying the weight of centuries. "If I were a white girl from Highland Park saying the exact same words, would you be listening differently?" The uncomfortable shuffling in the gallery provides the answer. Keisha reaches into her bag and pulls out a worn leather journal. "This is my father's documentation. Every case, every cure, every method, all recorded, including 3 cases exactly like yours. All 3 patients were declared terminal by hospitals like Methodist and Presbyterian. All 3 are alive today." She holds the journal high. "But those patients were black, Latino, and poor, so their recoveries don't count to you, do they?" Dr. Hamilton tries to regain control. "Medical records can be falsified. Anyone can—" "Then test them," Keisha challenges. "Call Mrs. Rodriguez, call David Park, call Jennifer Walsh, all sitting in this courtroom right now, all alive when your hospitals said they'd be dead." Wilson's face is pale as parchment. His hands shake slightly as he grips the bench. Keisha steps forward, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carries to every corner of the room. "Your Honor, here's your choice. You can keep believing that only white people in white coats can heal and die slowly while maintaining your racism." She pauses, letting the words sink in. "Or you can swallow your pride and let a black teenager save your life." The challenge hangs between them like a bridge over an abyss. "Free my father, and I'll prove that everything you believe about us is wrong." Judge Wilson clutches his chest as his heart pounds with more than just medical distress. In this moment, he faces a choice that will define not just his remaining days, but the very foundation of everything he's believed about race, medicine, and justice. The most powerful man in Dallas sits face to face with a teenage girl who holds his life in her hands, and the terrifying possibility that everything he stood for has been built on a lie. Chaos erupts in Federal Courtroom 6B like a dam bursting. The careful order of white supremacy that has governed this space for decades suddenly feels fragile, threatened by a teenage black girl who refuses to know her place. Prosecutor Mitchell's voice cuts through the noise with desperate authority. "Your Honor, this is a circus. We cannot allow some ghetto teenager to manipulate our judicial system with parlor tricks." Dr. Hamilton rises from his seat, his face flushed red with panic. "This is exactly the dangerous delusion I was talking about. This child thinks she can practice voodoo medicine on a sitting judge." From the gallery, a white man in an expensive suit calls out, "This is what happens when we let them think they're equal to us." But something has shifted in the room's power dynamics. Judge Wilson stares at Keisha with a mixture of curiosity, terror, and the dawning realization that his carefully constructed worldview might be crumbling. "Miss Williams," Wilson says slowly, his voice betraying uncertainty for the first time. "You're asking me to believe that a 17-year-old, that someone from your background, can cure a condition that the best cardiologists in Dallas have declared untreatable? Keisha's response cuts like a scalpel. Someone from my background? You mean someone black, Your Honor? Someone poor? Someone whose ancestors have been healing people for centuries before your medical schools even existed? The directness of her challenge sends uncomfortable ripples through the white gallery. Several people shift in their seats, suddenly aware that their racism is being exposed in broad daylight. Keisha opens her father's journal with steady hands, her voice growing more authoritative with each word. Your specific condition is silent myocardial ischemia with left ventricular dysfunction. Your ejection fraction is probably around 35%. Your LAD artery is 70% blocked, RCA about 60%. Judge Wilson's face goes ghost white. These numbers, precise, clinical, devastating, match exactly what Dr. Richardson had told him in private consultation. Traditional medicine wants to do bypass surgery, Keisha continues with surgical precision. But at your age and with your diabetes, yes, I can see the signs in your skin tone and the way you blink. The success rate is less than 40%. Dr. Hamilton sputters. Lucky guesses. Medical terminology she probably looked up on the internet. Keisha turns to face him directly. Internet? Dr. Hamilton, your medical license was issued in 1987. Mine is 400 years of inherited knowledge passed down through generations of healers who kept people alive when white doctors refused to treat them. She steps closer to the witness stand. And unlike you, I actually know how to heal people. When's the last time you treated a patient, Dr. Hamilton? Oh, wait. You're not a practicing physician. You're a hospital administrator who gets paid to keep black healers out of medicine. The accusation lands like a physical blow. Dr. Hamilton's mouth opens and closes without sound. Mitchell attempts to regain control. Your Honor, you cannot seriously consider this. If something happens to you, this experiment could kill you. Wilson's response surprises everyone, including himself. What happens to me is my concern, counselor. But his voice wavers, and everyone can see the lifetime of racial conditioning fighting against his survival instinct. Keisha recognizes the moment and seizes it. Bailiff Johnson, you're having lower back pain, aren't you? Started about 3 weeks ago after you helped move furniture for your daughter's wedding. Bailiff Johnson, a heavy-set white man in his 50s, typical Texas law enforcement, jerks like he's been struck. How did you... The way you shift weight from foot to foot when you stand. How you arch your back when you rise from sitting. The slight grimace when you think no one's looking. Keisha's voice carries complete confidence. May I show you something that will help? Bailiff Johnson looks at Judge Wilson, clearly uncomfortable with accepting help from a black teenager. But the pain is obviously severe. I guess. Keisha approaches him, studying his posture for 30 seconds with the intensity of a master craftsman examining her work. Press here, on your lower back, right side, about 2 inches from your spine. Johnson follows her instruction and gasps. That's Jesus, that's exactly where it hurts most. It's not your back, Keisha explains calmly. It's your right kidney. You've been taking too much ibuprofen for the pain, which is stressing your kidney and causing referred pain to your back muscles. She demonstrates a simple stretch. Stop the ibuprofen, drink more water, and do this movement twice daily. The pain will be 80% gone in 3 days. The demonstration sends shockwaves through the courtroom. Here is empirical proof, happening in real time, that this black teenager possesses knowledge that their white medical establishment has missed. Dr. Hamilton's voice cracks with desperation. This is nonsense. You cannot diagnose kidney problems by looking at someone. A white spectator calls out. She's probably right by accident. A broken clock is right twice a day. Mitchell pounds her table. Your Honor, we're watching our judicial system being taken over by superstition. But the fear in their voices is palpable now. The confident superiority has been replaced by panic as their worldview faces demolition. Suddenly, as if summoned by the stress of confronting his own racism, Judge Wilson clutches his chest and gasps. His face turns ashen as pain radiates down his left arm. He's having a real heart attack, triggered by the psychological trauma of having his white supremacist beliefs challenged. Your Honor! Bailiff Johnson rushes forward. Call 911! Mitchell shrieks. Doctor, Hamilton pushes forward. Everyone step back. I'm a medical professional. But Keisha is already beside the judge's bench. Don't move him. Moving him now could cause a full cardiac arrest. Get away from him, Dr. Hamilton screams. You have no medical training. You could kill him. Keisha's response is devastatingly calm. And your medical training is killing him right now. When's the last time you actually saved a life, Dr. Hamilton? You're not even a real doctor. You're a bureaucrat who profits from human suffering. The crowd erupts in racial panic. A white woman shrieks, "Don't let her touch him. God knows what diseases she might be carrying." A white man yells, "This is how they kill people, with their primitive remedies." Mitchell's voice rises to a shriek. "Your Honor, don't let her practice her voodoo on you." But Keisha has already placed her hands on Wilson's wrist, checking his pulse with the expertise of someone trained by a master healer. "Your Honor, I need you to listen to my voice. Focus only on my words. Right now, you have two choices. Trust the same medical system that's been failing you for months, or trust the knowledge that has kept my people alive for centuries." Her voice drops to a whisper that somehow carries absolute authority. What's it going to be? Your racism or your life? In that moment, the entire power structure of the courtroom hangs in the balance, waiting for a dying white judge to choose between the supremacy he's built his life on and the black teenager who might be his only hope for survival. As Keisha applies precise acupressure to Judge Wilson's wrist, his breathing begins to stabilize. The white crowd watches in stunned silence as this black teenager literally saves the life of the man who was about to destroy her family. "This is an acupressure point PC6, Neiguan," Keisha explains while working. "It regulates heart rhythm and calms the spirit. My great-great-grandmother learned this from Chinese railroad workers in 1870s Texas, when white doctors refused to treat either group." Dr. Hamilton makes one last desperate attempt. "She just got lucky. This proves nothing about—" "Actually, it proves everything." A new voice cuts through the chaos. Every head turns to see an elderly Asian man in a white coat, followed by an elegant black woman. "Dr. Robert Carter, Chief of Cardiology, Johns Hopkins Medical Center, and this is Dr. Aisha Williams Johnson, Professor of Integrative Medicine, Harvard Medical School." The white crowd murmurs in confusion. "Hopkins? Harvard? What are they doing here?" Dr. Carter approaches with quiet authority. "I flew from Baltimore specifically for this case, because we both know Marcus Williams, and we know his daughter." Dr. Williams Johnson opens a thick file. "Keisha Williams has been offered full scholarships to Johns Hopkins, Harvard, Mayo Clinic Medical School, and Stanford since she was 14. The revelation hits like a physical blow. "She turned them all down," Dr. Williams Johnson continues. Dr. Hamilton's face contorts. "That's impossible. She's just someone from her background couldn't possibly—" Dr. Carter's response is ice cold. "Couldn't possibly what? Be smarter than you? Save a life that your medical system gave up on?" Wilson stares at Keisha. "You're that accomplished, but you're just what, Your Honor?" Keisha's voice carries centuries of dignity. "Just a black girl from the hood? Just someone you assumed was ignorant?" Dr. Williams Johnson reads from her file. "Keisha Williams is the author of 12 peer-reviewed papers on integrative cardiology, published under the name K.M. Williams. Her research just won the American Heart Association's Young Researcher Award." Wilson's world tilts. "You're that researcher? The one whose work Dr. Richardson mentioned?" Keisha steps forward. "Let me tell you what I really am. I'm the descendant of people who kept medical knowledge alive when it was illegal for us to read. I'm the daughter of a man who saves lives in communities your medical system has abandoned." Her voice rises. "And yes, I'm smarter than every person in this room who assumed I was nothing because of my skin color." Dr. Carter provides validation. "Keisha's understanding of cardiac physiology exceeds most residents I teach. Her integration of traditional and modern approaches has saved patients we declared hopeless." Dr. Williams Johnson delivers the final blow. "Harvard offered her the position of youngest department head in medical school history. $400,000 starting salary. She turned it down to stay and fight for her father." Keisha looks directly at Wilson. "Because I don't need white institutions to validate my worth. My people have been healers since before your ancestors knew what medicine was. We don't need your approval. You need our knowledge." She pauses. "And right now, Your Honor, your life depends on accepting that a black teenager from the ghetto knows more about saving you than your entire white medical establishment." Wilson stares at the girl who just saved his life as the full weight of his racist assumptions crashes down on him. With the presence of Dr. Carter and Dr. Williams Johnson, plus Keisha's true identity exposed, the entire racial hierarchy in the courtroom has been flipped upside down. The white people who were once confident and superior now panic and scramble for control they're rapidly losing. Prosecutor Mitchell's voice cracks with desperation. Your Honor, regardless of these credentials, the law is still the law. Marcus Williams practiced medicine without a license, but her authority has evaporated. She knows she's losing badly. Judge Wilson attempts to maintain judicial composure. Counselor, the law also recognizes extraordinary circumstances and the doctrine of necessity. Suddenly, Wilson clutches his chest again. A second heart attack, more severe than the first. The stress of confronting his lifelong racism is literally killing him. His face turns gray, sweat beads on his forehead, and his breathing becomes labored. Dr. Hamilton leaps up. Call the paramedics, get her away from him. Mitchell shrieks, we need real medical professionals. A white woman in the gallery screams, she's killing him with her voodoo. Dr. Carter approaches quickly, his medical bag in hand. Keisha, his condition is deteriorating rapidly. His blood pressure is dropping dangerously. We could stabilize him with conventional methods, nitroglycerin, IV fluids, immediate transport, but Keisha cuts him off with steel in her voice. But then everyone will say it was Western medicine that saved him, not our way, and nothing changes. The system that criminalizes my father gets to claim victory again. She looks directly at Wilson, who is pale and sweating. Your Honor, this is it. The moment of absolute truth. You can choose the medical system that looks like you, sounds like you, and has been failing you for months. Her voice rises with absolute conviction. Or you can choose to trust a black girl from East Dallas completely. No backup plan, no safety net, just trust. White spectators erupt in racial panic. Don't do it! You can't trust your life to them! He'll die if she touches him! Another voice cries. This is murder! Someone stop her! Dr. Hamilton's voice cracks with desperation. This is medical malpractice! I won't allow... Keisha whirls on him with fury. You won't allow! Dr. Hamilton, you don't have any authority here anymore. You're just a scared white man watching everything you believed about racial superiority crumble. She steps closer to him. For 30 years, you've kept black healers out of hospitals while people died. You've profited from their suffering while calling us ignorant. But right now, at this moment, your superior white medicine has nothing to offer this man. Wilson's internal struggle is visible to everyone as he fights for breath. Keisha, I'm scared. Not just dying. I'm scared of admitting I've been wrong my whole life. I know, Keisha responds with surprising gentleness. That's what's killing you faster than any heart disease. The racism, the hate, the assumption that black people are inferior. It's literally poisoning your heart from the inside. She kneels beside his chair and opens a small cloth bag. Your Honor, I'm going to save your life now, but I need you to understand what that means. It means admitting that everything you've believed about my people is a lie. She begins her treatment combining acupressure, herbal preparation, and psychological intervention with the skill of a master. I need to place needles at specific meridian points. This might hurt a little, but the real pain will come from confronting the truth about why you really hate people like my father. Wilson tries to deflect as she prepares the needles. I don't hate. Yes, you do. And until you admit it and release it, your heart will keep trying to kill you. As Keisha places acupuncture needles with expert precision at points along his wrists and chest, preparing herbal tea with movements that seem almost ritualistic, Wilson begins to break down emotionally under the dual pressure of physical treatment and psychological revelation. My brother David died when I was 25, he gasps between labored breaths. He had appendicitis, but instead of going to the hospital, he went to this black folk healer in South Dallas. His voice cracks with 30 years of buried pain. The man said it was just bad spirits and gave him some herbs. Told our family that David would be fine if we just trusted in the old ways. By the time we realized how sick he really was and got David to a real hospital, it was too late. He died on the operating table while I held his hand. Keisha continues her treatment while speaking, her voice steady and compassionate. And you blamed all black healers for one man's mistake. I blamed your people for being ignorant. for thinking they could practice medicine without education, for killing my brother with their primitive superstitions. Tears begin flowing down Wilson's face. I swore I'd never let another family go through what we went through. Dr. Williams Johnson steps forward with a thick file. Your Honor, I researched your brother's case after learning about your judicial record. The man he went to, Jeremiah Black, was not a traditional healer. He was a drug dealer who posed as a healer to avoid police attention and prey on desperate families. Wilson looked stunned, even through his pain. What? But he had herbs. He knew the terminology. Terminology he learned from television and books. Herbs he bought from health food stores. The real traditional healers in that community, people like Marcus Williams' father, tried to warn families about Jeremiah Black, but they had no legal standing, no way to officially report him, because the medical establishment refused to acknowledge their existence. Dr. Carter adds clinical detail. Your brother's appendix had already ruptured by the time he saw Black. Even if he'd gone directly to a hospital, his chances of survival would have been less than 30%. The fraud who treated him simply delayed proper care by crucial hours. The revelation hits Wilson like a physical blow. You're saying if we had worked with real healers instead of criminalizing them all. Keisha's voice is gentle but firm as she adjusts the needles and offers him the herbal tea. Your brother might still be alive. Real healers would have recognized the surgical emergency immediately and sent him to a hospital, and you wouldn't have spent 30 years destroying families like mine out of misplaced grief and rage. As Wilson processes this truth and sips the bitter tea, his vital signs dramatically improve. The combination of emotional release and Keisha's treatment creates visible transformation that amazes even the medical professionals present. Dr. Carter monitors with his portable equipment. This is remarkable. His EKG is normalizing, blood pressure stabilizing, respiratory rate is improving. It's like his body is healing itself from decades of stored trauma. Keisha continues working while speaking. Your Honor, you have to forgive yourself. Not just for your brother's death, that was never your fault, but for 30 years of racist assumptions, for every Black healer you sent to prison, for every family you destroyed because you couldn't see past the color of our skin. Wilson's voice breaks completely. How can I forgive myself for being so wrong about everything, for ruining so many lives because of my own pain? Keisha's response carries the wisdom of generations. The same way we forgive this country for 400 years of slavery and oppression. The same way my father forgives you right now, even though you were about to destroy his life. Not because it's easy, but because hatred literally kills. Your racism has been eating you alive from the inside, cell by cell, heartbeat by heartbeat. She looks directly into his eyes. Healing means letting go of the need to be superior to us and accepting that we've always been equal to you. It means admitting that wisdom doesn't have a color, that intelligence doesn't have a race, that healing comes from love, not prejudice. As Wilson fully accepts this truth, drinking the last of the herbal tea and allowing the acupuncture to work, something extraordinary happens. His color returns from gray to healthy pink, his breathing deepens and steadies, and for the first time in years, he looks truly peaceful. I can feel my heart beating normally, strong and steady, like it hasn't in months. Keisha carefully removes the needles. Your Honor, you're healed. Physically and spiritually. Your heart is strong again because your soul is no longer poisoned with hate. She stands and looks into his eyes. But now you have to choose. Do you go back to being the man who criminalizes Black healing? Or do you become the man who protects it? She pauses, letting the weight of the moment settle. Do you use your power to maintain white supremacy in medicine? Or do you use it to create justice for all the families like mine that you have the power to save? Wilson looks around the courtroom, at the white faces staring in complete shock, at the Black and Latino families holding their breath in desperate hope, at his own hands that no longer shake with medication side effects, at the teenage girl who just saved his life in every way possible. I know exactly what I have to do. The moment hangs suspended like a held breath, as everyone waits to see whether a lifetime of institutional racism can truly be transformed by the courageous love of a 17-year-old girl who refused to accept her assigned place in an unjust world. Judge Wilson stands slowly from his chair, steadier and stronger than he's felt in months. The transformation is visible to everyone. His color has returned, his breathing is deep and even, and his eyes hold a clarity that wasn't there an hour ago. Court will recess for 30 minutes while I confront some hard truths about myself in this case. When he returns, Wilson's entire presence has changed. Gone is the arrogant white authority figure who believed his race made him superior. In his place stands a man humbled by his own ignorance and transformed by unexpected grace. Ladies and gentlemen of this courtroom, he begins, his voice carrying new weight, I owe profound apologies to the Williams family, to every traditional healer I have wrongfully convicted, and to this community I have failed. He looks directly at Marcus. For 15 years as a judge, I have allowed my personal trauma and racial prejudices to corrupt my decisions. I have criminalized black and brown healers not based on evidence of harm, but based on fear, assumption, and yes, racism. The white gallery shifts uncomfortably as their champion publicly dismantles everything they believed. After reviewing the actual evidence, not my prejudices but facts, I find that Marcus Williams's actions were performed under the doctrine of medical necessity to preserve human life. His voice strengthens. Furthermore, the prosecution has failed to prove any harm. The evidence overwhelmingly shows that Mr. Williams has saved lives that our conventional medical system had abandoned. Prosecutor Mitchell makes one desperate attempt. Your Honor, this sets a dangerous precedent. Wilson cuts her off with newfound authority. Miss Mitchell, the dangerous precedent was criminalizing people for healing. That ends today. He looks at Marcus with genuine remorse. Marcus Williams, you are hereby acquitted of all charges. Moreover, I am personally recommending that the state of Texas immediately create licensing pathways for traditional healers to practice alongside conventional medicine. The Black and Latino families in the back rows explode in tears and applause. Marcus and Keisha embrace, both crying openly. Wilson addresses Keisha directly. Miss Williams, you didn't just save my life today. You saved my soul and opened my eyes to the profound injustice I have perpetrated. Keisha's response carries both forgiveness and strength. Your Honor, healing isn't about being superior or inferior. It's about being human. Thank you for remembering your humanity. As the gavel falls for the final time, the sound echoes not just the end of a trial, but the beginning of a transformation that will ripple far beyond this courtroom. 1 year later, the transformation is complete and breathtaking. Dallas Medical Center now houses the first integrative healing wing in any major Texas hospital. The sign outside reads, "In honor of the Williams family, who taught us that healing has many faces and wisdom has no color." Marcus Williams works as Chief Traditional Medicine Officer alongside Dr. Carter, developing protocols that blend ancient wisdom with modern science. The waiting room tells a new story. Elderly white patients sitting beside young black mothers, all receiving care that honors both their bodies and their cultural traditions. Mrs. Rodriguez, now cancer-free for 4 years, volunteers as a patient advocate, helping others navigate between conventional and traditional treatments. Judge Wilson has become the most unlikely champion of healthcare reform. He personally authored the Williams Act, comprehensive legislation requiring insurance coverage for integrative medicine, creating licensing pathways for traditional healers, and mandating anti-discrimination training for medical professionals. Keisha Williams saved my life twice, he tells reporters at the bill signing. Once from heart disease and once from the disease of racism that was poisoning my soul. The man who once sent 23 traditional healers to prison now travels the country advocating for healing justice. Keisha accepted Harvard's offer, not as a student, but as the youngest department head in medical school history, leading the Institute for Social Justice in Medicine. Her first initiative, the Marcus Williams Scholarship Program, providing full rides to students from underserved communities studying integrative medicine. My father taught me that true healing requires humility, she tells her commencement audience. The humility to admit when you're wrong and the courage to learn from people you've been taught to dismiss. The racist characters face their own justice. Sarah Mitchell was disbarred after investigations revealed bribes from pharmaceutical companies to target traditional healers. She now works as a paralegal, finally learning what real justice means. Dr. Hamilton lost his position when the hospital board, now including 3 people of color, unanimously voted him out for his discriminatory policies. East Dallas has become a national model for healing justice. Health outcomes have improved dramatically. Heart disease down 45%, diabetes down 38%, depression down 52%, life expectancy up 7 years. The community that once hid traditional healers now proudly showcases them. The Williams case triggered a nationwide movement. 23 states have passed similar legislation. Medical schools across America now require courses in cultural healing practices and addressing medical racism. Bailiff Johnson, whose back pain Keisha was cured that day in court, heads the new Court Access for Alternative Medicine program. "That young lady didn't just fix my back," he reflects. "She fixed my prejudices too." Marcus's patient files became the foundation for the Williams Archive, the largest collection of documented traditional healing cases in American history. Medical researchers worldwide study his methods, finally giving scientific validation to knowledge that was dismissed for centuries. "My daughter did what I never could," Marcus reflects while reviewing cases with Dr. Carter. "She forced them to see us as equals, not because we asked for their approval, but because we proved we never needed it." The ripple effects extend globally. Traditional healers in Africa, Asia, and indigenous communities worldwide cite Keisha's courage as a turning point in their fights for recognition. In a full-circle moment, descendants of the Chinese railroad workers whose healing knowledge was shared with Keisha's great-great-grandmother established a scholarship in her name. But perhaps the most powerful transformation is personal. Wilson and Marcus now work together on the Medical Justice Council, the former racist judge and the man he almost destroyed united in ensuring no family faces what the Williams endured. Their friendship, impossible a year ago, proves that even the deepest wounds of racism can heal when truth and justice finally meet. Today, as Keisha stands before Harvard Medical School students teaching healing beyond prejudice, she looks out at faces of every color united in the mission to heal. The girl who was once laughed out of a courtroom now shapes the future of American medicine. "The story of my family isn't really about medicine," she tells her students. "It's about the courage to see beyond the lies society tells us about each other's worth." For 400 years, America operated on the deadly lie that white people are inherently superior, that knowledge belongs to one race, that healing can only come from those who look a certain way and speak a certain language. The Williams family proved that lie kills, literally. Judge Wilson nearly died from the hatred eating his heart. But here's the truth racism tries to hide. When we heal our prejudices, we heal everything. When we stop seeing color as a barrier, we start seeing wisdom everywhere. When we include instead of exclude, we all become stronger. The next time you see someone being dismissed because of their race, age, background, or unconventional methods, ask yourself, what wisdom am I missing? What healing am I rejecting? The next time you benefit from a system that excludes others, ask, how can I use my privilege to open doors instead of closing them? The next time you witness injustice, ask, will I be Judge Wilson before his transformation, blind, bitter, and slowly dying from my own hatred? Or will I be Keisha Williams, brave enough to speak truth to power, wise enough to heal rather than harm? Free my dad and I'll heal you. 7 words that exposed the deadly cost of medical racism and revealed the healing power of justice. Those words changed everything because they carried an undeniable truth. Every community has healers, every culture has wisdom, every person deserves respect. Your turn. What prejudices are poisoning your heart? What assumptions are limiting your healing? Who are you brave enough to learn from today? What healing are you called to bring to a world that desperately needs it? Share this story if you believe healing comes in many colors. Comment with your own story of unexpected wisdom or a time when someone you underestimated taught you something profound. Subscribe for more stories that prove love is stronger than hate, wisdom is stronger than prejudice, and justice is the ultimate medicine. Because sometimes the cure for society's sickness isn't in a prescription bottle, it's in the courage to see each other's humanity. Sometimes the most powerful medicine is simply the willingness to listen, to learn, and to heal together. The Williams family proved that when we choose healing over hatred, when we choose wisdom over supremacy, when we choose justice over prejudice, miracles happen. Hearts heal, lives transform, and the world becomes a little more whole. What miracle will you create today?